Hello and welcome to my new video. This one will be about how your head and your thinking can block the doing of things. I know it's quite some time since I did my last video, and the reason for that is that there have been a lot of processes going on for me, and I have been to like 3 festivals in August or something. August and September, and yeah, quite a few things happened for me, and I realized a few things that needed some integration. And this video is kind of like the result of one of these realizations that I had. And to sum everything up that I will say in this video, it is that once you overthink to a certain degree, this will completely block your doing. Doing in terms of, when I say doing in this video, I'm referring to something that has to be done, not something like, going to the toilet or enjoying yourself or whatever. I'm talking about things more as in to-do list, stuff that needs to be done. And so the summary is that stop overthinking, because it will block your doing, and also get proper rest, which also comes from not thinking too much. So the big realization that I had, or one of those that I had recently, is I was sitting on my couch just trying to relax, trying to do nothing. And I realized, goddamn, I can't even sit here and just rest for 20-30 minutes without doing anything, without my head telling me things, or my head was always trying to push me to do something, to think, act, whatever. And then I said, no, I'm gonna stay here. And if I want to stay on this couch completely idling, not even watching a movie or whatever, if I want to do this for 2 hours, I would do that. And then I realized, and this is also the reason I think why, although I do meditation for quite a few years now, why it's always been so hard for me. And I guess for many, many other people as well, is that there is something in me, or there was, that tells me to be active, to do something. And this is what I realized, that there is something always dragging me into this active domain, where even if I want to take a break, want to make a pause, I can't do that. And I figured, like, something's terribly wrong here. And it's not just for meditation, it's also, and I'm not the only one, I know that, and it's not just for meditation, it's also, if in the summer I'm going to the forest and I would just want to rest there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just sit there doing nothing, that was as difficult as just meditating. Because this voice, or some thoughts were always telling me, you need to be active, you need to do something. So I dove into this topic and I analyzed it. I shed my light of awareness or whatever onto it. And now I'm kind of actively taking breaks and actively resting. So I prepared a small graphic for you. And this graphic starts, like, the core aspect of this is the doing of things, as I just explained. And it's also resting, because obviously resting will recharge your energy, your batteries. And it's something that we would like to have. Of course, everybody wants more energy, free time, more energy. Be joyful. And there is this thought of, I have to do something. It must not be this exact thought, but like the semantics, that some kind of thought that pushes you to be active and do something, and to grow, and to I don't know, this could be all sorts of things, like learn new things or improve your muscles or your beauty or whatever. Like, I have to do something. So this is the core of this graphics that I made. Now what happens if, usually if you do something, then your to-do list shrinks and then you get some free time to rest, right? I mean, that's the usual, like if you think on a very basic level, that's how it's supposed to be. Life gives you certain things that you have to deal with, and you just deal with them and then you rest, right? That would be natural and a normal thing. But let's see for a moment what happens if we add perfectionism to this equation. Because what it does is it blocks the doing of things. Because it will always tell you, oh, there's more things that need to be considered, and this is not ripe yet, and this is not, I can't, it needs more work or whatever, or it needs more thinking. Especially if, let's say, we couple this perfectionism with that it brings you too much into your head, where you feel like, oh, well, I need to overthink this like quite a few times until it's completely ripe and I can give it out, whatever it is. And the biggest problem here is once you get too much into your head, this will lead to all sorts of problems that I mentioned earlier, but I will also explain in more detail in a few moments. The question would also be how perfectionism arises. So at least for me, the reason why I see kind of perfectionism is there in my life is there's some kind of fear that I may make mistakes, and or that people could be very critical about what I say and what I do, which of course has to do with two things. For example, one is that I'm critical myself. So of course that's something I would think that other people would be as well, realizing most of the time they are not as critical as I am and don't have as high standards as I have. And the second thing why I think this developed for me is that I do remember, of course, as everybody did, making mistakes in my youth and childhood, but then like people laughed about me or whatever. So I guess I kind of subconsciously created this subroutine that says, well, then I just stop making mistakes, right? I just be, as perfect as I can in every matter. So that's what I think are the reasons for, let's say, perfectionism in my life. Although I'm not like super perfectionist, but it's the attitude that, it has to be polished to the max. And this by itself consumes a lot of time. So I want to get more into this aspect of too much thinking, too much in your head. I wish someone had told me that there's this danger that you might be too much in your head, that you might be, I don't want to say too intelligent, but just investing too much time and energy into mental processes. Because I hardly heard anyone say such a thing. But I now realize that because something was off in my life, and I wasn't very calm. I was rather hectic, and as I said, I couldn't really rest. So I had to find out what was the reason for this, and I'm 99% sure it comes from being too much in my head. Because when you are, that means usually, first of all, you're not in reality. You're somewhere else, but you're not experiencing reality if you're in your head. Like if you were there 100%, you wouldn't perceive anything. And also it's most of the time you will be in the past or in the future, thinking about things that could happen or that have happened. But it's not the reality. It's just something that you made up, actually. I know it's hard to overcome this kind of thing, but that's what it is. If you're in your head, you're not really in reality. And what does it lead to? Of course, you can be intelligent, you can think. I'm not saying stop thinking or whatever, but too much of this will lead to a lot of worries, because your brain will then always try to find this, this tiny percentage of a chance that something horrible might happen. And we bloat this up in our minds, in our brains, into like super unlikely situations, but it takes up a lot of mind space. And the general gist, I guess, would be to stop worrying. Like, you don't know anything about the future anyway, so just stop worrying. It doesn't help you at all. And the other aspect is that if you're too much in your head, it leads to a lack or a losing of vitality and just the joy of life. Because as I said, when you're in your head, you're not really in reality. That means you're not experiencing the life and the joy that is actually there. You're in some kind of, I know it may sound a bit strange and exaggerated, but you're in some kind of different realm that is very cold and abstract. It has to be abstract. If you think about it, it has to be abstract because your brain is just although very intelligent, it's just a kind of machine that it has to reduce the input it gets from all the senses and everything. It has to reduce the input. So it has to be abstract. It has to be something else that is not reality. And yeah, as I said, and as I mentioned, you will also lose a lot of energy. So for me, my working hypothesis is that I have been so much in my head and I've been thinking so much that my body consumed a lot of energy, which I didn't realize. I'm very thin. I mean, not completely overly thin, but I'm rather thin. But I still eat a lot of food. And I'm not talking about salads. I don't eat salads. I eat a lot of fat and a lot of sugar and a lot of nuts and oil. So yeah, I'm just saying it consumes a lot of energy, because if that wasn't the case, I'm not doing so much sports as in gym or something, but if that wasn't the case, I should weigh like 20 kilograms more, which I don't. So just be aware of the fact, just remembering you of the fact that our brain consumes actually quite a lot of energy, and don't underestimate how much that is. And yeah, if you feel like your body needs that energy, just grab a donut or, grab something sweet or a banana or whatever. Because listen to your body. And that's always, more sensible than listening to what some diet experts tell you. And what does it also lead to if you're too much in your head? It leads to overburdening yourself, which then leads to more pressure. Like, we talked about the worries, but there's also, you're trying then to take all the variables into consideration, which is impossible, because to do that, you would have to be omniscient, which you are obviously not. So, how deep do you want to go with this? Until then, as I did, you realize it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if you hit the wall that I hit, you will realize, damn, I know nothing, like really nothing. Yeah, of course, I can use some, mental activity to steer this body through this experience. But ultimately, it's not of too much use. If you're at the, let's say, spiritual level where I'm trying to trust the life process and accept whatever it is. Because then your brain will not help you too much with this. Rather to the contrary. It's what is often called the ego, which tries to, you can also say it's a demon in a way, but that's not the point I want to talk about here. So you create a lot of pressure. And then that pressure may lead to the thought, I have to do something. I have to do something. But then, if perfectionism doesn't already create enough friction for you to stop acting on what you want to do, then another thing might be that you are just distracting your energies. Or not distracting, you're like diversifying your energies. If you do that because you have so many topics in your head and so many ideas and directions, it's like compare it to a laser. If you want to cut something with a laser, that is your intellect, you need to focus. You need to focus that energy onto a topic. And then it works. Like, you can work miraculously well if you actually sit down and focus on a task for a few hours. But if you diversify and if you move from A to B to C to A to D to B to C, whatever, this is not efficient, and it's also stealing a lot of energy from you. Because the trap here can be that every time you get some kind of a new input or a new or old thought, you will rethink everything through that you already thought through. So you're running in circles and you're running in a loop. Like, yeah, you already came to a conclusion, so just act upon it. But there is this trap where you don't do that. You try to reevaluate all these things, especially if you're Libra or you have your Libra ascendant, or like Virgo, like if you're very strong mentally to begin with. And this is something you should really take care of. So my advice would be very clear that you made a decision and then stop thinking about it. Just follow up on that decision. Except there's like really completely new input that comes along the way, but that should come after doing something. So there is also the aspect of procrastination, which will also, it increases your to-do list, because life will always throw new things at you that you have to deal with somehow. But if you procrastinate, if you just, I do it tomorrow, or I do it in a week, or whatever, whenever I have time, these things will pile up, and this also increases the thought of, man, I have to do something. But then if your doing is blocked by the aspects that I mentioned, of course there could be other aspects, but these are the ones I want to talk about here, then it creates this huge friction and kind of this lack of calmness, this lack of inner peace, because in the back of your head, you think like, there's something I need to do, like there's tasks that need to be done. And this takes a lot of energy and a lot of ease from your life. And it could lead to dis-ease. So I advise you, especially the things that can be done in 2 or 3 minutes, to do them instantaneously, really. Think about this. If something can be done in 3 minutes, do it right away. Don't procrastinate. Do it right away if you can. To sum up this whole picture that I have here, I want to point to the fact that we want rest to recharge and to feel good. And for that, life throws tasks at us, and we have to deal with these tasks. But if the doing is blocked by certain things, you should be aware of this. What is it that blocks my doing, that blocks my acting out? And in this example that I gave here, or in this video, I pointed specifically to perfectionism as one culprit, the other one being procrastination, and the third one is like diversifying your energies and always jumping to different topics. Yeah, so I hope that you won't run into the same trap that I did, because it's a bit tricky to find that out, to find these things out. So maybe with this video you can be more aware of these things and reflect whether that's something that you also do in your life. So thanks a lot for watching this video. You might consider my service as a healing coach. For that, you can visit my website, that is in the description. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Wish you all the very best, and see you in the next one.